So I actually had kind of a tough time coming up with ones for this because I think what you can consider romance horror versus not is very relative. So with that being said, I'm coming out swinging and saying that I consider Candyman a romance horror movie. If you hear Tony Todd talk about his part in this movie, he actually will refer to it as a love story. Fun fact, before filming, he and Virginia Madsen took ballroom dance classes so they could develop this chemistry, and I think that really reflected on screen. And like I've said before, this is one of my all-time favorite horror movies. So in some dark, sick, twisted way, I'm going to consider the movie The Loved Ones a romance horror movie. This is a movie that I find highly underrated and very lesser known. And I think the most perfect way to describe this movie is exactly what it says on the cover. Pretty in Pink meets Wolf Creek. That is the best way to possibly describe it. People are probably going to get mad at this because Natural Born Killers is not exactly a horror movie. It's described more as like a crime, drama, maybe a thriller. But either way, it's sick, it's twisted, it's gruesome. But again, in like a dark, twisted way, I'm rooting for Mal and Mickey the whole time. I'm going to go ahead and consider The Fly a romance horror. Obviously because of the relationship between Gina Davis's and Jeff Goldblum's characters, but especially because of what Gina Davis has to do at the end, and just the emotion behind it. So yes, obviously a shout out to an OG, The Bride of Frankenstein. I just find the story of Frankenstein to be incredibly sad and very tragic. And Bride of Frankenstein obviously paved the way for Bride of Chucky. I just love Jennifer Tilly so much, and I love Tiffany's character because of Jennifer. Giving Chucky a bride was one of the best things they could have done in this franchise. So another reason I found this list so difficult to make was it was very difficult for me not to automatically gravitate towards any vampire movie, because I feel like every single vampire movie has some underlying romance to it. So with that being said, basically any vampire or Dracula movie you watch, there is going to be an aspect of romance behind it. So I just picked a few that I think are especially focused on the romance aspect. First and foremost, obviously Bram Stoker's Dracula. If this cover alone with Love Never Dies doesn't tell you that this is a romance movie, then I don't know what does. Next, I chose Let the Right One In. I'm sure that does not come as a surprise because, again, this is a very romance-based horror. This is just a really beautifully done movie overall. And finally, Interview with the Vampire. Just the dynamic between Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, and then Brad Pitt and Kirsten Dunst's character. I feel like this is very much a romance-based horror movie.